Hi everyone, it's Miss Cat with week 2 of our 3D challenge. The challenge we're working on today is a challenging one, actually. We're going to be working on building a chess pawn using a lesson in Tinkercad, just like we did last week. We're going to be learning a lot of new skills, and hopefully these will be able to help you build your very own favorite character. My favorite character, let me give you a quick sneak peek at what I am hoping to be able to build in the future. I am hoping to be able to build Baby Yoda. We're going to learn circles today. We'll learn how to use cones. We'll learn how to rotate things from one place to another, how to align shapes so that they are the same from one side to another. A bunch of different skills we're going to learn today. I don't know that I'll be able to build a Baby Yoda right after that, but at least I'll have more tools in my proverbial tool belt. Now, let's get started. I'm going to take a quick minute and just make sure that I am recording, because I recorded a whole video a few minutes ago, and I was not actually able to see it when I was done. So it looks like I'm recording. My fingers are crossed that I'm recording because I really want to share this with you guys. So log into your Tinkercad account and go ahead and go to Learn, just like we did last time. Go to Lessons and go to Chess Pawn. This is what we're going to be building today. Now, as you can see, the chess pawn, and we're going to go ahead and go to Chess Pawn, and we're going to restart the project. Now, I've been working on this a few times already tonight, trying to figure out how to teach it to you, trying to think about, well, like I said, I just went through a lesson and then it all kind of wasn't recorded. So this is, if you need to start over, you can always hit restart project on the page before this, which is what I just did. So you can see over this chess pawn, there are spheres, there are cones, there's all different kinds of building that we're going to be learning about. So I think it's going to get us far in trying to figure out how we can make our own characters. So the first thing we're going to do, hit next, drag a cylinder shape to the work plan. Here's our cylinder over here. Drag it over to our work plane and hit next. Scale it smaller to a height of 3 millimeters. Now, remember how we scale things. These little white squares show us our dimensions of our different objects, and we can scale things based on dragging them up and down. So we want this to be 3 millimeters high. It's 20. Let's scale it down. 3 millimeters. There we go. Next. Drag a work plane. This is interesting. This is a new thing that I learned in this particular lesson. You can build work planes on top of work planes. So instead of having to manipulate your objects and move them up and down, you can actually build them on top of a new work plane, and it makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to take a work plane here. I'm going to bring it over to that little orange square you can just see there. And it's going to make a new work plane that I can build on. So that took me a few tries. Sometimes you got to mess around a little bit to figure out exactly where they want you to put it. But I think you need to drag it just on top of the shape that you already had to put your work plane right on top of the shape. Let's take a look. See? You can see how our shape is here, and now our work plane is right on the top of it. Next. Drag a cone shape to the top of the cylinder. Now remember, we can always go back. This is an interesting view. It's not a bad view for actually what we're doing, but if we wanted to go back, we could always hit home and see the original view. Let's take a look at this one though. Let's drag a cone into this shape. It's on the new work plane. Scale it to a height of 11 millimeters. So again, we can see it's 20 millimeters now. Let's drag it down to 11. Okay, next. Drag a sphere shape to the work plane. You can see where they want us to drag the sphere shape. Let's drag it over there. It's quite large. Scale the sphere to a diameter of 18 millimeters. Now the diameter, of course, is the width of the sphere at its widest point. This view is interesting because it gives kind of a two-dimensional view to our three-dimensional objects. When we look at it from the home view, we can see much more of a three-dimensional view. And we can also see that we've put things in the wrong place. That's not supposed to be here. This cone is supposed to be on top of what we'd had before. And then let's see, this sphere is supposed to be actually on our work plane and not all the way down there. So that shouldn't happen to you. I don't recommend actually doing what I was doing, which is working on this work plane from the front view, because clearly I was unable to make my sphere where I wanted it to be. So I'm going to put the sphere here instead. And then they want me to make it a diameter of 18 millimeters and squish it to 5 millimeters tall. Okay, done. And then they want me to move it probably into the circle they've provided. Okay, let's go next. Now we want to drag a cone shape, another cone shape to the work plane, excuse me. Scale it to a height of 28 millimeters. So we want to make this one higher, 28 millimeters. Okay, great. And a diameter of 14 millimeters. Okay. Fits right into their little orange guidelines. Move the cone to the target orange area, which is right here. Now they also want us to lift it 3 millimeters above the work plane. So you can see over here, this -3, that's showing us or telling us that's where it is in relationship to the work plane. We want it to be 3 millimeters above the work plane. Okay. Drag another cone to the target area in orange. Done. 12 by 19. Now it says taller, but my cone is 20 millimeters when I put it down. So that's actually a millimeter shorter. And the diameter is 12 millimeters. Okay. Now this part is tricky for me. The rotating, you can see that it wants to turn basically our cone upside down. Here's our cone, here's our rotation. We click in there and we should be able to click on our object, click on our rotation, and then rotate it. I really had struggled with this. I was only able to do it going back to the front. Now remember, I'd made a mistake. This sphere, we don't want it. I'm just going to delete that sphere. We don't want that. Here we are with our cone that we want to rotate. I'm going to click. Ooh, I don't want it to go down there. I do want this cone to be 3 millimeters above the work plane. Anyway, so here I am. I want to rotate. I scroll down. I click in here where you see the rotation. I scroll down to my object and I'm able to rotate it. Now, it really took me quite a few tries to be able to do that. And you just saw that I struggled with it. So it's something to work on, something to gain a skill with. And if you find a good way to do it first time, every time, please let me know because that would help me as well. But I've done it, I've rotated it, and I'm going to go back to my home view because remember, it didn't work that well for me to be not using this view. Okay, what goes next? Drag a work plane to the top of the cone, which is really the bottom of the cone I just flipped. Okay, here's my work plane. I put it on top of the object I want the work plane to be on. There we are. Again, take a look at the front. You can see the work planes on top. Now, my cones look kind of funny, so I'm not sure how this is going to come out, but we'll give it a try. Back to the home view. Okay, that's done. Drag a sphere shape to the work plane. Okay. Scale the sphere to 8 by 8. Now by 8, so that is the whole thing we want to become smaller. And they give us a tip here. If you have a shape like this and you want to scale the whole thing, every dimension to be scaling at the same amount, you hit Shift and then oops, that's getting both of them. So I'm going to undo that. I want to just get my sphere, just my sphere, and Shift. The whole thing wants to be 8 millimeters, not just the sides. I don't want to squish it, any of those things. And so hitting Shift, the whole thing will be the same dimensions, but smaller or larger, as opposed to being shorter and squatter or anything like that. It is just a smaller of the same shape. Okay. Now, they want us to bring our work plan back to the bottom. So we grab our work plane, and rather than putting it on top of any of our shapes here, we're going to put it not on a shape at all. That'll snap us back to our bottom work plane. Let's take a look again at the front. There we go. This is going to be interesting. We're using a tool called Align. You'll see. We'll see how it works right now. Okay, next. Now, align the shapes. Aligning the shapes is going to help us bring all the shapes together on the same axis. So on the same y-axis, all of our shapes should be centered around that. So we're going to select all of our shapes. And we're going to hit, this is the Align tool. I'm not sure why they use that icon. I think it's kind of odd, but it is what it is. Let's hit Align and see what happens. This shows us all the different dimensions that we can align around. We want to align, sorry. Let's go back to our home view. Select everybody again. We want to align. We want to align around the front. And we want to align around the side. Look at that. Now you remember how my cones were kind of funny? They were offset. This looks much more like a chess piece. We used the Align tool. It brought everybody to align right around a center axis. And look how nice my chess piece looks now. That's actually a surprise to me, and I'm very happy. That's a very great tool, I think, for when you're building characters or anything else that you want to be symmetrical. The last thing we're going to do is group everything together and see how it looks as one piece and not the separate different pieces of it. Here is your group tool. So I selected everything. I hit the group tool. There's my chess piece. Look at that. I even got some stars to explode from it. Let's take a look at it from the front. Look at that. That is, honestly, I was worried about this particular demonstration, but this is the best chess piece I've made. Now, practice makes perfect. This is probably my 5th or 6th time going through. I'm very happy with this chess piece, and I hope that you're going to be happy with yours as well. So go ahead, work on this, learn the different tools, and then play around. If you create a character, I would love for you to send it to me so that we can print it for you. And we can really take a look at what your piece might look like. Or we could spend some time making it look, if there's some issues or some challenges, I'm happy to work with you to try and figure out together how we can make it look great. So thanks for going through this challenge and being patient with me today. And have a lot of fun, all right? Happy day.